KFUG Community Radio. I'm sorry, Maryanne, what'd you say?
Can we be done now?
Can we be? Maryanne Fallman is not down for this interview, but she's here anyway. So thanks for playing along and being a sport. I really appreciate that.
Well, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
KFUG Community Radio, 1031 the time. Just Paul with you. It is community service. Make sure all the computers all happy. Okay, good. So, joined live in the studio right now, Maryanne Fallman, who is involved with the local homeless population, primarily veterans and such. And I had you on. I asked you to come on because of this exchange. We were just starting to talk about this exchange on Facebook earlier this week that initially was a post about the Ninth District Circuit Court and a ruling about a community in Idaho, it being unconstitutional or just not cool to cite people for having no place to sleep when there are no alternatives, when there's no place for them to go sleep. And so our local police chief has said this is going to change how we interact with the homeless in Crescent City. And did you post it or share that post, or was that Karen who did that? Karen Harner did that, I think, right?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
And then you started commenting, and it's I've been watching posts also that Mike Thornton has shared about homelessness, local homeless issues, and the kind of response, at least 50% of the response that comes out is, I don't know, how would you characterize that?
Well, I think it's the misperception that has come along with many years of frustration with the homeless population, mm-hmm. and I think also a lack of understanding of what being homeless means and what the impact it has on these individuals. I think that's the bottom line. There is such a misconception about the fact that they all could be better. They could get a house if they wanted one. They could get a job if they wanted one.
It's their choice.
It's their choice.
Yeah.
They're just a bunch of druggy drunks. They leave litter everywhere, and they don't want help.
And you were saying, at least in this exchange this time, you weren't, nobody asked you to go kill yourself?
Yeah.
That happened before?
That happened to me when I made a political post about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that'll do that.
I was... Two different individuals told me that I should just simply go kill myself, and at least 3 others insulted my intelligence in a very derogative manner.
It's horrible. It's actually I've stopped doing political things just for that very reason, because then I end up I'm not the kind of person who can just let it go. I'm not a very good Christian, and so yeah, it's just it's more like anti-social media at that point. But so. We were talking before we went on about just how you got involved with local homelessness, because you've got, and I got this from the comments you were making on this thread, that, and I know this of you from Bobby down the street and Jim and all the shared people in our lives, but that you are out in the trees, out in the weeds, out in the bushes a lot. You kind of know what's happening homeless wise in here. Can we go through? You took me through how you got involved primarily with homeless veterans or homebound veterans with the VFW. Can we go back through that? I know we just
briefly,
talked about this.
Just quickly, I was perusing the newspaper about 5 years ago, Valentine's Day time, and noticed an article regarding homeless veterans, or not homebound veterans, or veterans that were in VA hospitals and in rehab centers that were alone, had no family, and it would be really neat to send them Valentines. And so I thought that was really cool. So I had my granddaughter and her friend help me make 50, and I took them to the VFW hall the day before Valentine's Day, and no one was there except the bartender, who told me that there would be nobody that would be there to receive them. So I went to Brookings to the VFW up there, and they were very happy to receive them, and made sure some got to the hospital in Roseburg. So I was very, very excited about that. And then my son's girlfriend and I got the idea of just taking snacks into the Veterans Hall, and I found out about the PTSD support groups that they have, and so we started making snacks for that, and the veterans we got to know the veterans, and Jerry Johnson, who's the commander, and just had some wonderful exchanges, and the veterans were so appreciative to just have somebody notice them and think of them, and so they wanted to do outreach for homebound veterans to try to help them get better access to services. And so we started doing that, and I started meeting veterans, and then we started going out to people on the streets looking for veterans. And then we decided that it would be neat to provide them with a sack lunch, and a lot of them had dogs, so we took dog food. And then a group of us spearheaded by Barbara Pearson, who was our social services director at that time, who got involved and went with us. We started with Bob Streefer's help, who introduced us to many of these folks out here off of Elk Valley and all over the county. We started finding veterans and getting them housed, and we formed a coalition and have housed as many veterans as can be housed right now, which is wonderful. So, but we still have a lot of homeless out there that are not eligible for that housing because they, quote unquote, have bad papers. They were dishonorably discharged. So you will have veterans that faithfully served sometimes 2 tours of duty, but are homeless and because they were dishonorably discharged, which is tragic to me because they served faithfully and they deserve some recognition for the sacrifices that they made. And a lot of them do have PTSD, which goes hand in hand with mental health and mental illness. Just the fact that you're homeless is going to bring up mental health issues.
Sure, it's a stressful situation.
It's a very stressful situation without all of that compounded for the veterans, and that's part of what my passion is the homeless veterans. But again, the problem is bigger than that.
So there's been controversy about counting the numbers of homeless in Delnor County. And I know that there were a couple of different counts we were talking about, and one was very low, and everybody sort of gravitates to the at least 500 number.
Yes, I would concur, yes.
You would know that from being out and talking.
Absolutely.
Of that 500, how many are veterans? Any idea?
I think because the numbers are so skewed, I think we came up with 6%, 7%, something like that. Okay. I think, if memory serves me correctly, but don't quote me on that one.
Sure. And not to say that there's, because it's more of an issue, I think, for a lot of folks that there are homeless veterans, people who've really put into society. But the homeless experience is the same whether you're a veteran or not a veteran.
Absolutely.
It can be tough out there. So you've been out and about and with Bobby into the trees and following the trails and things. What's it like out there to be homeless?
It's like a third world country.
Mm-hmm. Like basically just, squatting. If you're lucky, you can put together some sort of shelter and band together.
I have seen immaculate camps. I have seen elaborate camps with drainage systems. And
wow.
It's so interesting how it varies from camp to camp to camp. It really does. And I've also seen complete disaster areas. I've seen it all. And there are camps you don't go into because that's not a camp you want to go into.
Wow.
Because there's sex trafficking, there's meth, heroin, everything out there, needles, everything. And I think that's what in my experience, for instance, when we went out and did the point in time survey, actually interviewing particularly the women, have you ever experienced domestic violence? And I had many women out there that are very vulnerable and young women too. We're talking underage children. That really speaks to me. I met with Benita Cabrera from Rape Crisis regarding the problem, and there is a response team here which serves a certain population, but a lot of these camps are way back in, and they don't want to be found, basically. But being able to reach the ones that we can and do what we can to get services provided, that's the challenge, because social services does not want their people out in the field, and for safety reasons. I get that. We go out when we were going out consistently, go out in pairs, 3 people sometimes. You don't go alone, obviously.
Sure.
I've gotten to know through Breakfast Club, serving breakfast at Daily Bread Ministries, a lot of the homeless that are out here on Elk Valley, but also all over the county. And every story is different.
Can you characterize from what you know of the population as a whole? I mean, what sort of services are most needed?
Everyone would say housing first. Housing is huge.
But that's a huge concept too.
It is a huge concept. There's a lot. It's multi-pronged. You cannot. It's all of it. And yes, they have done it successfully in Humboldt, and it can be done. It is going to take the whole community to do it. That's why we were forming these committees where we wanted real estate brokers at the table. We wanted social service, mental health at the table. We want all of law enforcement. All of it is it's a combined effort to. And that's what it's going to take. And if you have someone that's going to be pulling the cart backwards, that's not going to help the whole group move forward.
Yeah.
And everybody seems to have a different agenda, and we've got to get on the same page. As far as I've seen, wraparound is what basically wraparound meetings, wraparound services is what these people need. And
Wraparound, define that for me. What's
See, wraparound is more, that's my other hat, my CASA hat, Child Protective Services. Families, they do wraparounds where you have a meeting with everybody in the that's involved in the case, there to support the person that you're working with or the family, and to find out exactly and tailor fit their needs. Tailor fit this program is going to work for you. I have we lost one of our homeless people. I can't get too specific. The mate went out of county to rehab. They did not, the agencies that were supposed to watch over his wife while he was gone did not. We ended up losing her.
Oh, wow. Wow. So this is, I mean, just didn't drop the ball, didn't bother to? Do you have any idea what happened? What was
the ball was dropped.
Okay.
And I think that ongoing case support is vital. And I know, and I give kudos to social services. I know, I work with all facets of social services and have for 20 years. I know how hard their jobs are.
Sure.
I do get that. But unless you have, and I when Barbara Pearson was director, she allowed one of the intake workers to come out to a camp with us where I knew the couple wanted intervention. They wanted help. And we literally, we got them in my car and took them to social services and got his ID, got their food stamps. But that's what it took.
Yeah.
Somebody to say, yeah, we have a car right here. Yes, you can. Yes, we will take you. We will be that support person for you.
That seems to be like such a missing piece in all of this, is that the services, at least on paper, are there. There is help in the community. But there's this huge disconnect between living in the bushes and getting to 880 North Crest or wherever you need to be, right? So in the past, there have been, and it seems like it kind of goes in election cycles too. There's a lot of people, and I've had panels on KFUG and talk about homelessness. You know, have a supervisor and Sheriff Apperson sitting here, and everybody's got these ideas and they've got these things, and they'll coalesce into sort of, like you mentioned, Coates earlier, and that just kind of goes away unless somebody's there kind of rattling the cage. Yeah, is that you?
I get in trouble a lot.
So what do you do to make sure that keeps moving forward? How do you rattle the cage?
Well, just continuing. I mean, I feel very excited that I'm fingers crossed regarding the resolutions passed by the city and the county.
But you've seen that before, right?
I have not actually seen that before.
Really?
I've not seen a resolution like that. That's a new one.
And what was new is specifically they've got both of these governing boards to pledge to end that this is kind of a goal. This is what we're going to work toward, as opposed to just, wouldn't it be nice?
Right. And I was able, Bob Streever and I were able to meet with Mike Thornton, and I was very impressed with everything that he had to say, and I'm really excited about that. And I know I need to get to the homeless meetings. So much.
Right?
I know it's like,
In
okay, it's 5 o'clock. But I think just acknowledge. You can't acknowledge. I mean, if you don't acknowledge it, you can't deal with it. And I just actually specifically asked one of our chronic locals that goes around and does the revolving door in the jail yesterday at breakfast. What would you do? What do you need in a home? Do you want to be housed? What would you take? What would it take? And he said, no, I don't want a house. I said, just something to keep you dry and a bed. And then he said, yep, that's all I need, and he looked really good yesterday. He's been working for his sister part-time. So I think that's part and parcel, like what I think I put online and other cities have done, like the city of Albuquerque that literally went around looking for homeless people and said, but they also have a full-on mission. So they have a functioning shelter, and it's like, and that's where we had wonderful Robin Hartwick was looking at properties for us. Where's it possible? What are buildings that could be used?
Really? Oh, cool.
Oh, she's a great
she's
gal.
a good lady. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, she was very supportive of getting the mobile showers going, which I really wanted to. That's part and parcel of something else I want to get going. But I think that's for instance, having a breakfast club is great because we also give out socks, and I go a little crazy at Dollar Tree
And
this time of year.
Tell us. I'm sorry. Let me just jump in. Tell us about the Breakfast Club. That was something that Barbara had started.
Barbara
doing.
started that. She
got kind of in trouble for it. And
Oh,
it was
big
part
time.
of the reason that she was ousted, right? So
yes,
but
yes.
it has since moved to reach
Daily
out
Bread.
to Daily Bread.
Daily
Okay.
Bread, and until we did have 3 volunteers, and now we're down to 2, so we only can serve 1 day a week due to financial concerns. But it's okay because we do breakfast and. We do biscuits and gravy, and everybody just thinks that's the cat's pajamas.
Biscuits and gravy.
Yeah,
Wow.
we do a full on breakfast. We do a full on breakfast. It's great. But,
Oh, man.
But that was Barbara's vision. And she said, instead of going to the liquor store, come to social services, get a hot breakfast. Let's see what we can get going for you. Let's get you involved with the workforce. Let's get your food stamps. Let's get some medical issues taken care of. That was the thing too. And I think that proactive. We need to be very proactive, and because. People get their meds, but then they get stolen. People lose their meds. People's cell phones are stolen, so just supporting the resources they do have, making sure they get a ride over to DMV to get their ID, so that they can get access to better services. And I think that's just very small things like that mean the world to someone. Helping them get their Social Security card again.
Yeah.
I mean, those are things that can be done. And that's part of the ongoing adult section of caseworkers that
Yeah.
that
So is okay.
that are overwhelmed with their already stressed cases.
Gotcha. No, I see. That can be that's a tough job to have, and there's a lot of demand in this county for all sorts of things that happen. Yeah, that can be tricky to
Yes.
do. And if you have a population that maybe isn't interested in being seen, then who's going to make that effort, right?
I think, and that's the thing. Once you start really, instead of stepping over them or stepping away or it's like, look at them.
I think
Look them in the. I mean, you don't have to give them money, but it's. I've handed out lunches to people, and it just their face lights up. They just go, "Thank you," and you're like, simple. It's just giving them their dignity back. I think that's for me. That was where I was going with that one. One young man came in and said, "I have a job interview in about 45 minutes, and I don't have any clean socks. Do you have any socks?" And I was like, I was floored.
Wow.
I was like, something so simple.
Yeah.
And he was trying. And I know at least 2-3 homeless people that have jobs. I'm like, how do they do that?
Yeah, exactly. There's the woman living in her car has a job, that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I guess immediate need for the homeless. We need a shelter in this county, right? I mean, before we talk about getting people off the street and into houses and things like that, we need this kind of intermediary sort of thing. We need a shelter, shower, place maybe where there are lockers, people can put their stuff, things like this. What are you making all the hands? What's this mean?
Daily Bread. Well, we do have Daily Bread. Daily Bread is only open during the winter months, unfortunately.
We got to have Mike in
mission.
here. I need to have Mike to talk to him about that.
Yeah, and I actually, he and the county have been going back and forth, and I got everybody to the table, and they said, okay, this is what you need to do to make it an emergency shelter. We'll let you do that. So he has 12 beds.
Okay.
And it's open during the winter months. And his vision is to have a full-on mission. He has a room he set aside for lockers, for actually large bags where you can check your things in while you go to social services, so your things aren't stolen from your camp while you're trying to get access to services.
Yeah.
And so that's his vision, absolutely. And he wants the thrift store to go away and just have it be a full-on, full-time mission. And
Wow.
I love that vision because it's all there, and it's not in a place where anybody's going to see a lot of
it's
people.
not
The neighborhood's fine with it, and so that's what we really need. But we've got to address, that's what we really need, and that, as you say, intermediate. And they've got men and women. They do need more showers, and that's something that I think is so important. But I think the county really needs to support him in that. Although it is tough because it's a religious organization, so that's the. hoops to jump through.
We beat each other up just to get "In God We Trust" painted on a wall at the Flynn Center. I think we should be able to look past that, right? And I know that a 12-bed shelter is nowhere near enough, but it's at least something to start with. Wow.
Exactly. And the thing is, it is because just seeing the folks during the winter where they have foot rot. They come in with foot rot.
And you will never get dry for months. Yeah.
And the last winter was horrible. All of our folks got flooded out badly to where we have one veteran I know that has a camp back out, and we couldn't even get to his camp. And they had everything set up, and they had a TV, microwave, recliners, stove.
Wow.
Firewood. Yeah.
Huh.
And generator. And this much water.
Wow.
Gone.
Yeah.
Entire camp
Oh my
gone.
God. Wow. Oh man.
That happened with everybody.
So one of the things that in talking with Mike Thornton and talking with Roger Gitlin and Heidi Keim, one of the things that comes up with people who have maybe a more critical view of homelessness is this perception that there are folks out there who you just can't help, that don't want to be helped. They're not interested in it. Leave me alone. I want to live this way, whatever. And that's true too. Most of the homeless people I've interacted with in my life were back, 20 years ago, 25 years ago in the Bay Area. And a lot of it was drug-centered culture on the streets in Berkeley and in San Francisco. And yeah, a lot of them, I would say, were more concerned with other things than getting off the streets. Is that any idea what kind of percentage of the population is actually like that? Is just somebody who in Roger Gitlin's view would have to be made to get off the streets, made to change their lifestyle? Is that a big slice of our population here?
As far as the homeless population?
Get close to the microphone.
Oh, as far as
there you are, super close.
As far as the homeless population is concerned, I would disagree. I think, again, there needs to be a change in the way we approach the situation, and it breaks my heart to think that one of my homeless people would go turn in recycling and come back and have their camp gone. And that's the one thing that's my huge concern.
Okay, all right. So maybe... So is your concern less about let's clear the homeless out and get them into shelter, but starting more with let's just make sure that their situation now is safe and manageable?
Well, and cleaned up. And as someone said, yes, they need to keep their camps clean. Sure. And a lot of our homeless get really upset if people don't keep their camps clean. But yes, they need to be treated with dignity. They, in quotation marks, need to be. Everybody, that is their life. That's all they have on this planet. And I agree with getting rid of blight, absolutely. But again, looking at creative ways to do it, to the other part of this, instead of doing the revolving door in the jail, let's get community service going, get them working. And they're not going to pay their fines. They're not going to show up to court. They're just not. And so jailing them for 120 days costs us a fortune. And I can't imagine it not being more cost effective and productive to keep them sober and get them the resources they need. If they're going to be incarcerated, put them to work. I like your idea of talking about what Daily Bread is doing. That was the idea. Jerry had that idea years ago about a staging area, is what he called it in military terms. Exactly, right? And I wanted to do that behind Safeway. But they won't even let us do that in the VFW parking lot.
Wow.
Not even because everybody's worried about liability.
Sure.
That's all that I hear from county people is liability. We're always getting sued for something. It's like, I don't think a homeless person is going to be suing you. It's like, it doesn't make any sense because they're not going to. There's nothing that's going to positive that's going to be an outcome to that.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're looking at, and getting them to be back in, reintegrating them into the community as much as you can, because some do want to be out in the bush. They feel okay. Some of them can't. They will try the transitional housing, and they cannot hang.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why the Arcata facility. Well, in any facility that you have regarding veterans, you have to have a person on board 24/7. You've got to have mental health on board, on staff, because there are folks that are just going to melt down, and particularly our veterans. And I was called by the VSO folks. We had a veteran I had to help clean his hoard in his apartment, or he was going to get evicted. So, the issue followed him.
Yeah, exactly. Even into yeah.
And we were able to clean up his hoard, and he was able to keep his apartment. But unless you have that intensive case management, and that's why looking at each individual case is paramount. But we do need to clean up the blight, and we've got to have an alternative solution.
Yeah.
And I think, and for me, being able to be out there talking with people specifically, I've had Jerry call me from Walmart parking lot to go talk to a woman who was in tears and had lost everything and just was there with her dog. And I was able to hook her up with, I called social services, but it was because we were out there and he met her. I met another woman. She's in her mid-50s. She said, I want to work. I live out of my car with my dog. I don't know what to do. And I was like, social services is right over here. And it's just it's being that liaison and not being afraid to. I get hugs from people that are really dirty all the time. I've picked lice out of people's hair.
Wow.
I'm not, but that's me. That's my personality. And I think you can't look the other way. And you do have to acknowledge, yes, we do have severe issues with drug and alcohol abuse, mental health issues. Those do need to be addressed. And I agree, we do need to clean up our community. We want our community to be, welcoming. So why don't we have them out there painting curbs? Why don't we have them weeding? Why don't we have them doing that kind of work that is productive and is a win-win? And in speaking with Eric Apperson about this, he said, I need more manpower. He said, that's what I need. I need more manpower if we want a program like that. I said, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you remember, we know somebody who was painting curbs, right? And painting, and the biggest, when he initially started, his biggest jumping thing that he had to get over the hurdle was liability with the county and the city, and okay, well, let's find a workaround, instead of this paper barrier that pops up to keep people from working and doing things. It's where do we start then? What do we need now, right now, today?
Oh wow.
I mean, is it a matter of more caseworkers? Is it a sea change at Human Services? Is it
all of the above?
Yeah.
We need. Well, and as I say, I'm encouraged that the county has formed has a resolution and is really looking into it. I think that's a start because for instance, we just lost one of our youngest homeless was 28. We lost him last week.
Oh wow.
So was he a hardcore, years and years person out in the bush? No, I watched him try to get sober many, many times.
Oh man.
And he fell through the cracks and he died in the front of a store on the sidewalk. Almost. He was close to death when they called 911 and then he passed away. And it's like, he came to Breakfast Club every week and it's like, one of the kindest young men. And it's like, that's where we have to start. I mean, that's why I love CASA working with foster kids, because a lot of fosters end up homeless, drug addicts, sex trafficked.
Yeah, I think it's a better place to start.
And so for me, because I've worked with pregnant women all the way up, I take groceries out to a 97-year-old couple that are housebound every week, have done it for almost 5 years now.
Oh, wow.
That's part of my outreach. We started, and it's wonderful. But I think we've got to hit it with it's got to be a comprehensive approach. But today, that's where we start. We do the small things. We do one person at a time, one case at a time. What are your needs? What are your needs? And compulsory, I understand about Roger Gitlin's idea of making it compulsory. Well, if you're in jail for drunk in public, you're not going to sleep. You're going to sleep it off, but you're going to work for your fine. And and like Ivan Menzel was talking about a sobering center years ago. That would be fantastic. But then they're going to go back out on the street, and then what are they going to do?
Yeah.
We need to have that happen. And the other component goes along with a lot of our homeless that are hospitalized that go straight to the street from ICU. Wow. Open wounds. And one of the things that I spoke with Heather Snow about was getting, and I know there's now a rehab center, Sutter Coast just opened. I don't know if it includes homeless, but what we need is in other communities, they have transitional houses for people coming out of the hospital that have, a nurse on site that you can be monitored so that you don't get
you can stay clean and dry for a while until
the
you
stitches, the open wound heals. So those are the things that, and we have the buildings here. We have the capacity. Mental health has hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's what I've heard.
To spend $415,000.
That's what I've heard. The $400,000 thing. Yeah.
That they need to spend on facilities. Barbara Pearson looked at all kinds of facilities, possibilities around the county. Nobody wanted it there.
Is it such an act of Congress kind of deal to take that money and to kind of shepherd it through daily bread? That's the kind of thing that would be like, oh hell, this is going to get in the way. They're a religious thing. We've got this government money, and
that's part of the problem.
Wow.
And so, but there is no reason for us not to be utilizing these funds appropriately. And yes, if we had more caseworkers, if caseworkers were allowed to go out in the field, some of them that I spoke with they loved being out in the field. They said, this is great. This is where I grew up. I would love to come out in the field and work. And I understand. I would imagine the county says no because of liability.
Sure.
That's unfortunate because there are people that feel that are comfortable working directly with the homeless population. And I understand the level of comfort for some folks. Some people, it's just not. And I respect that.
You can see that lack of comfort on Facebook when you post something, right? And people talking about how they're cutting off the sidewalks in Crescent City. I'm trying to think who's walking on the sidewalks in Crescent City anyway.
And they're going to beat a path to Crescent City if we make it. I'm like,
no, yeah. That's the other one. Yeah.
What? There's nothing here. Why would you
come live in these wet bushes? Yeah, that's a common thing too.
Misperception, and Betty Chin came and spoke, and she had to go toe to toe with the board of supervisors, and they basically said she had her own money, or she had backers, and so they said, well, go do your thing, but she's been very successful with her programs, and that's encouraging to me, and I think, as I said, just the one of my friends that works for me that I trust implicitly, like I think I mentioned him on Facebook, him just sharing with one of our volunteers, God, I feel so good. I feel so much better about myself since I started working for Maryanne.
Wow, yeah.
And
going out in your home and helping, or in the place you live, right, Delaware County, and helping somebody begin a better life, change their life.
And that's, I think, that's where when Barbara Pearson was here, she's a large animal rescue person. She would take our guys from Breakfast Club out with her to care for her animals. They were fighting to see who got to go because they loved it so much. They were so good with the animals. That's what I mean. That getting them up and moving and because they do have skills. Many of them. All of them have skills. I have one that he worked his way up with the lumber mill across the way, from a tent to being by himself a trailer back there. He's doing great, and he has a bike. Doesn't even own a car. He rides his bike everywhere. But he showed up, he worked, and he pulled himself out. And he was hardcore into the meth with his girlfriend. I know that.
Oh wow!
And he is. So it can happen. It takes the local businesses to trust, but you have to earn that trust. But it's baby steps. It is baby steps. And if compulsory, okay, you're in jail this time. I mean, no, you can sleep it off. Or sobering center, yes, you can sleep it off. But now you're going to clean the fairgrounds. And people that live at Daily Bread, the staff that lives there, they have to they go out and work every day. And if you want to be there, you got to be sober. And that's what Barbara said. You can come to Breakfast Club, but you're sober if you come here. You're out if you aren't. And so, I mean, that's just the small things that are just that starting to reintegrate. But you've got to do baby steps, because a lot of these people, this has been a way of life for them forever. And so
it sounds like you can't have like like this huge faceless process, like it's a machine here. You're going to get into the front part of it and go through Dr. Seuss like and come out the other end with a star on your belly and you're no longer homeless. No, you have to be able to treat each person for what they are, as an individual with a lifetime's worth of choices and failures and successes and everything that can be. Yeah, that's tough to do. You can't institutionalize that kind of response because you can't manufacture it. It has to be a human thing.
Absolutely. And think about change in your own personal life. You know how hard it is to change a habit.
Yeah. And it's not like, boom, overnight, one run-in with the law and everything's going to change then, you know, as we institutionally look away from you and just go, okay, there, there's consequences, go deal with them. And, you know.
Drunk tank fine. And expect them to screw up, because they will. And that's part of the process. It's in any situation. You're going to, I'm going to quit smoking. Oh, I slipped and smoked a cigarette today. I mean, it's not easy. So, and that's where that safety net, like I was talking about the wraparounds or the meetings that we have with some of the kids in my case, knowing that they're going to screw up, that they can call someone. I screwed up. Where's your sponsor? That kind of a thing. I screwed up, and I fell off the wagon. Okay, well, let's get you back on track. Okay, it's not the end of the world. Let's get you back. Okay, so starting day one again. Okay, how many? I mean, and it was so neat to see the process, because it does make you more accountable. And you're not. They're not saying, it's like, for instance, another of our gals that we lost. They sent her to the wrong rehab facility, and they didn't give her meds properly, and then she ended up back here, and she was very sick, and she completely fell through the cracks. And there was no reason for her to pass away. None.
Wow, just a bureaucratic oversight or something, right? Just a mistake somebody made, and then
again and again.
Wow. Okay.
And since I've been I think we've buried 6 homeless people, since at least 6 that I personally know, since I've been doing this. Wow. And the countless others that don't have names, that they just say some homeless man was found behind Wayside Market. Who is it? This person is a person with a family, and
somebody is missing them, right? And even not, that's even sadder if nobody's missing them, And then
yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so this, and I know you've seen several in these years, but this next push with the resolutions and with True North's involvement in the local organizing committee, what needs to happen, do you think? Well, first off, you need to start going to the meetings, for one thing.
Make them earlier in the day. I'm up at 5 every morning.
Oh,
God.
Okay.
Running. Especially Breakfast Club mornings. I'm up taking biscuits and gravy to daily bread by 7:15. But yeah, I think we do need to bring everybody to the table and start,
and keep them there.
And keep them there and start one at a time. I think we really do we need to take one at a time. House one. And just, we're not going to house them all, and it's going to be a process. I do believe in cleaning out the camps where sex trafficking and meth is going on. Bob Streever has called law enforcement multiple times, so they won't even come out anymore.
Wow. For just things here in the neighborhood? Man. Yeah. And that's we need to get that cleaned up. That part of it is very frightening, because we have a lot of people dying from overdoses. There's black tar heroin. I mean, it's getting really hardcore. Yeah, it's very serious. And I think we really,
for everybody's, the whole community's safety, we need to work on those. That's like when they did a big sweep a 3 years ago. SWAT team came out, and that's the kind of thing we need to get. That needs to be addressed.
You also need subsequent steps too, because you can come out and you can go, all right, let's erase this, let's tear this camp down, let's go. They do their time, they do whatever happens, they're back on the streets day one all over again.
Yep,
right? Yeah.
That's right. And so that's why it's got to be an ongoing process. And we really, and I do appreciate wanting these. I would love to see Elk Creek cleaned up back here. It's beautiful back there.
It is, yeah. But I don't go back there, and I never took my kids back there when they were younger. I was back once for a shoot, and I went, wow, this is all this is wonderful. The ponds, the whole bit, it's great. But no, you can't go ride your bike back there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what Bob Streever's vision too is to, I mean, he wants it cleaned up too. He would love to see those trails be utilized. The bridge rebuilt over Elk Creek. And I know I like what I think Dan Burgess was heading the
cleaning up out there.
Out there.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. This whole area is underutilized.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, you can't really go back here because you go down in the swamp back there.
It gets wet. Yeah.
There's a lot of people down there.
Yeah.
A lot.
No. I can hear them some days.
Yes,
yeah,
I know.
Yeah. Somebody's got a generator back there, or they're pressure washing the forest, something. But there are days where that's on all day. Yeah.
I know that camp.
You know that one? Okay, good.
I know that camp. I think that would be a wonderful way to, but working with the homeless and not working at them.
Yeah.
Like you need to work. You've got to work cooperatively with folks. They want their camps clean too. Some of them have forgotten how to clean or what it's like. You don't wash your clothes. You know how many clothes you find out there? They don't have the capacity to wash them. That's why I wanted to. That's another idea. Mobile washing. I've
seen a lot of those things now too, especially in the wake of hurricanes and things. The people with the RVs and the trucks and the mobile washing stations.
I have looked into that for years. That's. I mean, it's going to take about $20,000 to do a mobile shower, and we could probably for less than that do mobile laundry.
Wow.
And through my church, we do once a month we do free laundry at the Econo Lodge. You can come Econo Wash. Oh yeah, right. You can come to the hotel. We do, and we provide the laundry soap in the quarters.
Wow.
And we give them a sandwich. And I was just looking online. In fact, I shared it where this group does it, and they have not only that, but you can take a shower, you can get some food, you can get some resources, hygiene kits. I loved that. That's the kind of thing that I would like to see more of happen. Jerry talks about a staging area. That's the kind of thing that would be wonderful. And I know it's doable.
And a great first response kind of, a first step to take.
Yes.
Because part of that staging area I remember Jerry talking about is having access to at least a caseworker or somebody who can put you in touch with.
And that's where you get that. That's where the comprehensive services come in. And so I had a gal come up to me at breakfast, we call it Laundry Love, last month. And she's a young woman, and she said, I live out in the swamp, and my boyfriend just left me took my phone, my ID. I live 600 miles away. I know nobody.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
That's like being dropped on the surface of another planet and say, here, fend for yourself.
And if we hadn't been there, that's the thing for me. It's like catching those things are so important to me. And I said, I'll call Harrington House. She said, well, if I go back into my camp and get my laundry, can I do it? I said, heck yeah, we're here for another 3 hours. So I was, able to make that connection.
Wow.
That's something simple. This is not rocket science. And it's a matter of, this is our community. This is where we live. And yes, I would love to have this be a gem. It is a gem. Our harbor should be a welcoming place. Yeah. It could be dynamite down there, but that's a whole other subject.
We can go another hour. We can address the harbor.
Well, yeah, exactly. But and getting rid of the areas where, for instance, across from South Beach, where when Bob and I went out, it was all abandoned, but it had been a huge staging area for fenced goods.
Wow.
Huge.
There were a lot of needles out there too. I remember.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
because that
Oh,
was
always,
yeah.
always,
always.
always.
That's ubiquitous. Wow.
Always. Although I've personally, I think I've only seen 1 or 2 hypodermics
Really?
all the camps I've been in,
Oh wow. Huh.
even the abandoned ones.
I'll be damned. It seemed like the post from because that was also a spot that Roger went out and cleaned up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. Yeah. Yes, he did. And and that's that. That's the kind of thing, and you see that behind Safeway. There was a camp that did bikes.
Oh, wow. That's what
That
they
was their thing.
specialized in. So if you were homeless and looking for a bike, you knew where to go.
Oh yeah, all
almost
stolen.
like
They're all stolen, of course.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's not like they're a dealership, but we got. Wow. So this whole like sub economy then based on pilfering thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow,
Absolutely. Yeah. And in that area does need to be cleaned up because
Mm-hmm.
it is part of our. I'm glad that they cleaned it all out, and that is first thing tourists see. And
Yeah.
yes, I agree but it also the ones that are unseen. That's what we forget about,
Mm-hmm.
and the things that are happening beyond just what you're seeing next to the road or down at the end of the 9th Street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That I mean, it's so much more widespread than that. I think, and people see it, but and they think, oh gosh, ooh, bums, all my guys that hang out at Shop Smart during the day. But that's why Betty Chin opened a day center. It's like someplace to be. Where can you be? One of our homeless guys just said, I would love to work. He said, I used to be a contractor. He said, I get bored and I drink beer. That's what I do. He said, I want to work. Wow. I can't get a job. It's like, and I hear that time and time and time again. And then you have lots of people that have health issues because they live out in the bush. Their arthritis, their old wounds, new wounds, knife wounds. I mean, it happens. It's never happened to me. And in all the years, there's not one camp I've been into where I felt uncomfortable, threatened.
Wow.
Ever. Everybody's just been respectful, and of course I'm not law enforcement. I'm not asking for anything.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm not there to say pick up your trash. I'm there to give you a sack lunch and some dog food.
Yeah.
and try to hook you up with services. Call, and there's another couple I was able to help get them into a trailer, and they're doing great. Got their dog spayed so she won't have any more puppies.
Oh, good.
Yay. Yeah, and they were a couple that had a very elaborate camp set up, very nice. It got completely flooded out. But they're great folks. And so, I mean, I can't stress enough how important it is for us to address this, and not callously. It's, we've got to realize that these are all people with a story.
It's kind of like we have to get beyond looking at them as a social ill or even as a matter of public policy. They're people.
Right. And they're not going to come here in droves just because we build a shelter or whatever. They're just, there's no economy here. There's no money here. There's basically not much.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them go, I'm passing through.
Yeah.
It's like, there's, unless you have money here,
It's hard to get money here.
it's hard to get money here.
Yeah.
I mean, we left the Sacramento area because we couldn't stand Sacramento area
Yeah.
anymore, and Jim took a huge cut and pay for us to be here, and we love it here because and I keep hearing people say what a horrible town this is, and there's bums and da-da-da. It's like you're not looking at here.
Yeah.
Here is amazing.
Well, yeah, and this horrible town seems to be the more involved I get. It's certainly in this issue too. Is just chock full of wonderful people who want to help.
Absolutely. I've met so many wonderful people in this community. I've lived here 27 years now, and I have met wonderful people. And yes, I know we have a conservative county, and yes, I know we have, we do have that, that mindset. But this crosses all of the political boundaries. This is just human beings.
Yeah.
Being kind to one another and working to stop the blight by being proactive and getting these folks, again, it's not get them housed, okay, but if you're not going to house them without services, they're going to fail.
Yeah.
Invariably. And so unless you're willing to be that person that goes to the hotel room, that goes to wherever they are, visits them at the hospital, like we did, like we always are being called. That's what it's going to it has to be hands-on. It's got to be hands-on. Absolutely. And not being afraid of the homeless. We have so many that just disappear.
Yeah.
And we're like, where did they go?
Yeah, and you don't see them in the paper. They're just.
No.
Are they alive? Did they leave? Are they a missing person now? Is it worse? Yeah.
I know, and I met a young couple out behind Safeway that were living in a camper shell, and she was pregnant.
Oh wow.
They were on the HUD list, and they fortunately were going to get an interview for an apartment the next day. And I said, okay, I don't want to see you out here next week, and they weren't there.
Oh,
so
good.
But some people talk about, well, they just want the $200 they get from GR. I don't think they get money from the government. I think they can get food stamps and Medi-Cal, but I don't. If there's any kind of general assistance, it's not much of nothing. If at all.
It's gotten so difficult to get general assistance, and I think you basically have to be a kid.
Yeah,
or
I don't
at least
think
there have to be children involved.
And there are welfare to work programs for people with kids, but not for adults. Which is
okay.
And that's the thing that's the other thing too. Getting them involved in a work program, work programs, the ones that want the services. I forgot where I was going with that. Okay, that one went right out the door.
You've said a bunch, and we've talked for almost an hour.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
No. That's exactly what I wanted to have happen. This has been very elucidating. Thank you for coming in and doing that. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to get out there, that you want to say, that you want to leave our listeners with?
Just remember that there before the grace of God go I.
Yeah, that could be any of us.
It could be. And so many people that are homeless that have degrees that.
And so many people in this county too, which is of course one of the poorest in the state, who are really a paycheck or two away from being out there too.
Absolutely, and I think that's what's really, really scary especially for families. Knowing that's, and people having to choose between food stamps and their medicine that year or that month. Can I pay my rent? And I think that's the misconception too, that one thing I wanted to bring up, someone said something about, well, they can get on HUD just whenever they want. And it's like,
how long is the wait now? Do you know?
I think it's 6 months.
6 months.
I think it's 6 months. And I know if I'm incorrect, people can correct me on that one. But even if it's 3 months,
it's still not.
Where are you going to go for 3 months? And where are you going to get your first and last? You're not going to have it. You have a dog.
Yeah.
Veterans will not leave their animals, even for treatment. They will not go to Eureka without their animal. And these homeless folks too. That's their family. That's all they have in the world. That's their watchdog.
That's their support system.
Yeah. They guard their stuff when they're gone. And I think that's the other thing that's a component that's really, really important, not separating folks from their animal. And that's also a barrier to getting housing, though.
Yeah.
Because look at all these, there's no housing, and there's no pets, no cat, no nothing, iguana, maybe. It's like, I don't know. But, I have a gecko. I don't know. But I mean, I think that's the other thing. That is a huge barrier to housing for not just families, not just homeless men and women, but families. So that's where we go back to having even if it's tiny house village, which I've advocated for. I would love to see that happen down here. I'd love to see that over here. There's a piece of property. Look at all the property right here.
Yeah.
That you could put a tiny village.
Yeah. And it would, I don't want to say it would like, I just want to go run off like Mr. Peanut Butter style here and say it would be nothing to get all this. But really, as far as if you've got, a quarter acre and enough spot to build some tiny houses, whether it's stick tiny houses or shipping container things or any of that.
And that's what and on the back of a trailer. That's why Bob Streeter's working on just a flatbed on the back of a trailer. And that's what they did in Eugene. They've done it all over the United States. And we're looking at, an 8x10 maybe I'm looking at the size of maybe a half of that room.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
They need, and we're not talking fancy schmancy. It
No,
doesn't
just
have to.
drier and safer than you are.
And
Yeah.
so what they've done with the tiny villages is have a communal area where, and I think you know how they work, and the whole, everybody
Yeah,
manages.
I've read about the one in Portland, right? It's
Right,
got
right.
like is it like a kitchen or something like
it's
that? It's a communal thing.
Right. They have a communal kitchen, communal laundry, communal showers, but they each have a tiny, tiny little space where they can have a bed, and you don't have to. You can make it bed, table, lamp, chair. You don't. I mean, and they have a community toilet, shower area. It doesn't have to be rocket science. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying,
Yeah.
and that's not like them committing to a program, like you have to be so many go to meetings, but you have to be clean and sober to stay here, and you are part and parcel of keeping this place secure and clean. And it's been a huge success wherever it has been tried, and it doesn't draw more people there. It's a win-win. That's another. Another option.
Often that's like what happens when you treat people like people.
Absolutely.
Give them a chance to be human instead of a chance to fail and to not be seen. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. Maryanne, thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, we'll have you back on as we go on, and seriously, you should lend your expertise and your experience to the local organizing committee with True North and what they're doing.
I will.
There is actually, and I'll turn this up as soon as we hit this. There's a forum coming up.
I know there's a forum coming up.
and the aforementioned forum, I've got more information for it right here, and we'll be playing this in just a matter of seconds. So once again, Maryanne, thank you very much
thanks
for coming
for having me.
And we will do this again soon because
Okay.
this is an important issue that affects all of us. And as one of the activists involved with Sam Bradshaw, actually, is a young person working with True North, said during an interview a couple of 3 weeks ago, said that this is a matter of human dignity, which shouldn't be controversial.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.